It's not just the economic impact, Larry. It's also impacting our national identity, our national morale. A nation without borders is not a nation. But here's the good news. This is something the next president, President Trump, I hope the 47th president of the United States, is able to fix without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. The most important issue of our time is one that the U.S. president can directly address by enforcing the existing laws. Move the military to the southern border, complete the border wall, stop funding Central America and those countries until they've actually stopped the northward flow of migrants from Venezuela to the southern border of Texas, end birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals, and stop funding sanctuary cities. That ends the incentives to be here illegally. And then, yes, it is logical. It is not racist or xenophobic. It is purely logical that if we have had the largest influx of illegal migrants in American history, then we need the largest mass deportation of those illegals in American history. That's going to help the economy, actually, but it's also going to help our national morale. And a replacement for Biden and a Department of Homeland Security that actually does its job instead of undermining the law is a great way to revive this country. And I'm confident President Trump is going to do it.
All right, guys. So this is your daily reminder of the best way to red pill a leftist / liberal / progressive / Democrat is to give them what they want. Just give them what they want. Because unfortunately, a lot of people in this country are lacking common sense. And when you're lacking common sense and foresight, it's hard for you to predict the negative outcomes of these crazy policies that Democrats tend to support. So people have to actually experience the burning that happens when you touch fire in order to believe that fire burns. Okay, it doesn't matter what the topic is or the subject is, like, for example, the economy or crime or immigration. Democrats are learning the hard way that progressive policies are not good for the country. It's just unfortunate that they have to experience these progressive policies in order to realize that. And this is not just true domestically, okay? This is also true when it comes to European politics as well, too, apparently, because EU elections were just held, and France's National Rally, which is the right-leaning party, the right-wing party. Now, the media says far right, but we all know what they mean by far right. They mean common sense, really. That's what they mean when they say far right. But anyways, the right-wing party ended up doing overwhelmingly good in the EU Parliament elections, basically destroying the left-wing party that belongs to the French president, Emmanuel Macron, which effectively sent him into a state of panic over the massive backlash to the open border policies of the European Union that, again, even those people are sick and tired of.
Adam, it had been widely predicted that hard right, far right parties were going to do well in this election. But how surprising is Emmanuel Macron's move?
Yeah, this is a real shock for European politics. And it really is a sort of battleground between, effectively, the star of centre European politics, Emmanuel Macron, and the hard right in the shape of the French party, the Rassemblement National. Right, let's just talk about what has happened. European elections coming to a culmination tonight. An exit poll from France shows that the Rassemblement National is predicted to get around 32% of the vote. The Renaissance, which is the party of Emmanuel Macron, is likely to get just over 15%, so less than half. The leader of Rassemblement National, its president, is a young man called Jordan Bardella. He's only 28 years old. And he followed that poll by saying, Emmanuel Macron needs to take note of this and he should dissolve Parliament and call new elections. I think a lot of people thought that was grandstanding, that was somebody who knew they were going to have a good night and wanted to make the most of it. To the surprise of many, Emmanuel Macron has done exactly that. He's dissolved the National Assembly and he's called legislative elections that will take place on June the 30th and then July the 7th. Now, let's take right up. The National Assembly is the Parliament. Emmanuel Macron is the President. So this is not his job that is on the line, but it is the constituency of the Parliament. It is a real high wire act that he is performing. He's faced protests about his plans to raise the retirement age. He faced ridicule when he tried to intervene at the start of the war in Ukraine and be the intermediary with Vladimir Putin and was completely sidelined. He has faced criticism about migration and about climate laws and the increasing resurgence of the Rassemblement National.
And that brings me to this video that we have to talk about, featuring Margaret Brennan of CBS, who's going to be stunned at a new poll, their own poll, showing that most voters, including Democrats, want illegal immigrants deported, right? They support mass deportations of illegal immigrants who have come into this country illegally. And again, it's unfortunate that it took Joe Biden's mass illegal immigration into the country, open borders, in order to get people on board with mass deportations, which in my opinion has to happen under the Trump administration. Okay, that is a promise that I am hoping and praying that he makes good on. Okay, we need Eisenhower style mass deportations. Now, some people may find that to be controversial. However, with about 15 million illegal immigrants that are coming to this country, in my opinion, I think there's a lot more, okay, that are currently living here. Yeah, I mean, it's necessary at this point, right? We have to reduce those numbers because it has become a security threat to this country when you have people who are a part of gangs, criminal organizations, who are operating in the United States of America, okay? So again, it must be done. We're already seeing the consequences of Biden's open border. So again, desperate times call for desperate measures, and this is what the American people support, which is going to shock this CBS anchor when it shows up in the polls that, again, this is supported by 62% of Americans, right? That, hey, we need mass deportation. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Anthony, let's talk about some of the issues you say are important to voters. The border's one of them. President Biden did issue an executive order this past week. It authorizes U.S. officials to deport large numbers of migrants without processing asylum claims until the border crossings number dips below 1,500. So it's essentially suspending some of the asylum processing. Trump's been perceived as stronger on the border. Does this change anything?
No, Trump still is. More people think that Donald Trump's policies would stop or slow border crossings more than Biden's. Having said that, there is widespread support when we test in general terms for what President Biden just did. He gets 7 in 10 support on that. It's overwhelming among Republicans. It's also strong among Democrats. Look, context there. People have said they think that the border is in crisis for a long time. Having said that, you know, we have a lot of the campaign rhetoric speaking of what people say they would do. You've seen the Trump campaign talking about mass deportations. We tested that in a general way in principle. Would you support a new government program that would deport all people living in the U.S. illegally? And that finds majority favor. That finds 6 in 10. It's strongest among folks who are MAGA. It's strongest among Trump supporters, but also from some Democrats as well. And I think that that speaks to the general idea, not just that people see the border as a crisis, but also where we are in the campaign, where a lot of very dramatic or new proposals out there are finding favor here.
So unpack that a bit, because this 62% of Americans favor deporting all undocumented immigrants. So Homeland Security says that President Biden has already deported or repatriated more people in the past year than any year since 2010. And then,
well, yeah, more people have come into the country than any year in a long, long, long time. So it makes sense, right, that your deportation numbers are going to be a little bit higher because you have more people coming into the country. But again, what you got to look at is the proportion of deportations versus the amount of people actually coming into the country. Okay, we have more people coming into the country more than ever, okay, which is objectively not good. Okay, but as you can see here, guys, the tide is turning. Despite the Democrats in their rhetoric about how mass deportations and closed borders are xenophobic and, you know, racist, it seems like there's a good amount of Democrats in this country that seem to be xenophobic and racist, according to the Democrats and their definitions of xenophobia and racism. Well, why is that? It's because they've got a taste of their own medicine in these liberal cities. And this is why I say that Greg Abbott should be in the Republican Hall of Fame, if there is one, for his move to send illegal immigrants to Democrat-run cities. Because without that move happening, I don't think that America's support for closing the border and mass deportations would be as high, especially among Democrats, right? Because Democrats are now feeling it, okay? They're actually experiencing the consequences, and they know that they've been lied to and gaslighted by the Democrats on this issue, right? And again, this is also why the Biden administration is now trying to do a 180 on this, and now Biden is trying to act tough on the border, but it's too little too late, okay? And I want people to understand just how egregious this is, because Biden lied to the American people and claimed that, hey, there was nothing I could do about the problem. Right? I couldn't do anything with executive orders. Can't do anything at all. We must have legislation. This is what he claimed. But yet he let the problem get worse and worse and worse while lying to the American people about what he could do, just for him to turn around and issue this executive order, something that he could have done years ago, right? Now he's doing this because he wants to win the election. Now, does anybody believe that Biden's actually serious about closing the border? Or do people actually believe that this is what it appears to be, which is a virtue signal before the election, right? He's just trying to say that, hey, listen, I'm tough on the border, guys. Vote for me. As soon as this guy gets reelected, the floodgates will open. They will open up the border completely. They will grant work authorization permits to everybody here. They will grant mass amnesty. The illegal immigrants will be able to stay, and it will only get worse. That is what's actually going to happen, okay? This is the okie doke from the Democrats, right? So again, don't fall for this nonsense from the Biden administration in regards to all of a sudden, oh, they want to be tough on the border. It's only a ploy to try to get dumb voters to vote for Joe Biden in this upcoming election.
Depending on the details of what's talked about on the campaign trail, some of what Mr. Trump talks about could be illegal. It doesn't seem practical in some sense to round up children. And then we know that the courts have questioned whether local authorities would have the ability to do it, and federal authorities don't have the resources. So what exactly do people think they're supporting?
Well, wow. What exactly do people think they're supporting? Well, people are supporting what was asked of them, which is, should we deport all undocumented people in this country, right? And 62% said, yeah, we need to kick the illegals out. That is what they're supporting. They're supporting mass deportations. Now, again, how that gets done, again, is the question. I personally think that Trump should use every resource available to him and to fight every court battle that Democrats will most definitely wage against him in order to get this done, right? Tooth and nail. Fight it to the end. Do the same thing that Joe Biden is doing when it comes to student loan debt relief, right? Just do the exact same thing, okay? Do what you got to do, right? And then deal with the backlash later. But again, it must happen, right? It must happen, okay? We have to have a mass deportation operation. If we got to use local law enforcement, that's what we must do. In fact, that's what we should be doing, right? We should be using local law enforcement. But again, the problem is that some of these sanctuary cities have policies that explicitly prohibit local law enforcement from being able to help out the feds when it comes to deporting illegal immigrants who commit crimes. But again, the easiest way to get the criminals out really is for local law enforcement to hand over any illegal immigrant that commits any crime whatsoever, any crime, right? You're automatically handed over to ICE for deportation. This is what they should do, right? A lot of these liberal cities. However, again, we know that there's issues with that, again, because of the sanctuary city policy. But regardless, I just think that Trump should use every resource available to him and to push the envelope on this, right? In the sense that, hey, if you got to blur the lines between legality, do what you got to do, because it's that important of an issue to the voters, right? It really is.
When you measure public sentiment on this, or really just about any policy, you're getting a sense of direction, you're getting broad brushstrokes, but those kinds of details, well, that's often up to the legislatures and the courts later on. We tested even the idea of should local law enforcement be involved in this, and a lot of folks do say yes. Again, the details of that, the specifics, you're not going to pick that up in an aggregate public opinion.
They weren't tracking the Supreme Court decisions.
Undoubtedly not. But look, it does tell you, though, for the viewer watching this campaign, that what we're seeing here connects to whether it's the courts, what some people say is the politicization of the courts, these ideas of mass deportations, etc. We are in a different era in which a lot of folks say the system as a whole is not working. And all of these, if you connect the dots through them, are part of that reaction against it, which explains some of that general sentiment for some of these policies.
It's really just kind of a do something.
Do something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It is a do something, okay? Because we're sick and tired of seeing politicians do nothing while the country falls apart. And I think doing nothing on the border is probably the biggest issue that we have right now. And at some point, something has to be done, because we just can't allow this unfettered flow of illegal immigrants into this country without actually doing something about it. Like, for example, closing the border, putting the military at the border, and then also, again, conducting a mass deportation operation. I think the main focus when it comes to mass deportations need to be the criminals, right? If you're suspected of a crime, you're out. You're done, right? You're gone, okay? I'm just saying, like, that has to be the first step. The first step has to be getting the criminals out, right? Get the criminals out, and then everybody else we'll, deal with those people second. But getting the criminals out first has to be the main priority. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.